Hi and welcome. This is the second video of our short presentation series on using creator projects with eGIt. As you remember, in the previous video, we left after sharing our project and having our first commit. So we will now demonstrate how we would make some changes in our diagrams. We would see those changes in the comparison dialog offered by EMF Compare's diagram extension, and then we would see how we would commit those changes to a new revision. Now perhaps our login activity diagram is not enough to express our needs, and our model has evolved. In order to express the new information that we have about the domain, we would like to add an activity node and perhaps some actions to it. Now we would like the activity node 1 to be the one that follows after the initial node. So we will redirect our control flow that was previously pointing to request user to log in to activity node 1. Would also like to add a new control flow from activity node 1 to request user to log in. I would like to save those changes. As you can see, we have a marker showing that our file has changed. We would like to inspect those changes. We would go to right-click on the file, compare with, head revision. Now head revision is the pointer to our clean state of the diagram, to the part where has the state of our diagram before our changes. So by clicking on this, we will see the comparison dialog opening up. At the moment we wouldn't want to really see the domain information, because what we have visible in front of us is a diagram file. So we click on the diagram and we see several changes here. We see an addition of an activity node with the name activity node 1. We see the addition of a control flow, and then we see changes in a control flow and an activity. Now as these both are under the control flow, it means that both have an impact on the control flow. Now if we double click on the edge normal control flow, we get a highlighting on. In the first place we see two different diagrams side by side, and then we have a highlighting of our control flow. It shows how it was on the right side, how it was before, and on the left side how it has become after the change. So we see that this shows the control flow that we have redirected from request user to login to activity node 1. Furthermore, let's see an addition. If we see on the left, we have the addition of an activity node, which did not exist on the right side. So for that we have a placeholder that shows where we have placed our activity node. The same applies for normal control flow addition. We can see that this highlighted control flow on the left side is also being highlighted on the right side. But we also see a rectangle. This rectangle is the activity node that we have added and is shown on the left side. The reason why this is highlighted, even though we have selected a control flow addition, is because the control flow addition depends on this activity node addition. We cannot have a control flow without a source. And that's why it is also highlighted here in green. This means that if we accept this change, we would also have to accept the activity node addition. This dialog is used to resolve conflicts when merging. We would close the dialog, and as we see that these changes are adequate, we can right click on the file, go to team, and add this to the index. What this means is that this file has been flagged for committing. This will be included in our next revision. As we can see on the left, there is a sign that has changed. This small icon shows a star as opposed to the plus signal that we saw in the previous video series. Now, why this is not a plus and is a star? This depends on the state of your file and repository. Previously, we had added a file that did not exist under version control, while now we have added a file that exists. We would also like to change our .sd file. For example, we might consider that we have a new message type that we want to include in our model. We want an interface for that, which is an input interface. And then we have a message. We would like to go through this message interface. A new message type. Now the names are in no way good examples of modeling or conventions that you should follow. Please by any means avoid this. This video is purely showing you how to use eGIt with Creator projects. Now we will save the changes to our model, but as we can notice here, two files have changed. It's both the .sl file, which has the domain model, and then the .sd file, which contains the diagram. Now we would like to inspect our changes. We will go to compare with, head revision. We get a dialog because we are switching to the team synchronized perspective. We would click yes. If we expand, we see that there's this sign that on the left we have changes. If we double click, we will open the comparison dialog, which should be familiar from before. We can see that an interface has been added, and we can see the highlighting of it on the left side, and on the right side we see where it is added on the previous state. The same applies for the message. As you can see, adding the node on the diagram depends on adding the message on the domain, on the model. Now we consider that these changes are good enough to make it our next revision, so we would like to close the diagram comparison. We'll switch back to our modeling perspective, and I would like to flag this for an addition. We'd like to add this to index. As we can see, there's a dialog that is telling us that in order to include the login.sd, we would also need to include the changes made in login.sl. We wouldn't want to include one without the other because our model would be in an inconsistent state. We click OK, and as we can see, both are flagged as modified and they are ready to be included in the next commit. Now I would like to right click, go to team and commit. As we can see, there's only one file that has been selected. We would like to select the other two as well. I'd like to go and click commit changes made to the repository. Click commit. Now we're ready. Our changes have been included in our new commit. If we want to see what has changed since the previous commit, we can right click on the login.id, we can go to compare with, and then there are several options. We would like to see commits, previous commits. As you see, this is the initial commit that we made in the first video series, and this is where we currently are. It points the head, and it also points the master, so the head is pointing to the master. These are like GIT terms, and if you're not familiar with them, don't worry. It's not essential for continuing this video series. We might click on the initial commit. Then we see the familiar comparison dialog from before. It's exactly the same as what we saw previously. Now this concludes this second video of our short presentation series. Thank you for your attention.